Volunteering in Kazakhstan is considered as an important social phenomenon that improves quality of life. Over the past year only, the number of citizens and organizations engaged in volunteer activities has increased. The scale of implemented volunteer programs and projects has expanded. The number of volunteer organizations and groups has increased threefold, and today there are more than 600 of them. The number of permanent volunteers has increased by 4 times, which is more than 200,000 people. During the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, about 1 million Kazakhstanis joined the volunteer movement. More than 1.5 million citizens have received volunteer support. It is worth noting that the recognition of volunteerism at the state level was preceded by a law on volunteer activity, adopted in 2016. For the first time, the law laid the foundation for a more sustainable, systematic development of volunteerism in Kazakhstan.
Volunteer movement in Kyrgyzstan is also rapidly evolving. In 2021, on the week of International Volunteer Day, the draft law on volunteerism was presented, and the work of focus groups has been continued in 2022. In 2020, online and on-site events and exchange of the best volunteer practices were conducted within International Volunteer Day, with active participation of international speakers and organizations. National volunteers got recognition and platform to share their insights, solutions, ideas for future developments. In Uzbekistan, there are more than 2,000 devoted and talented volunteers trained by UN volunteers through the UN Joint Program on the Aral Sea region. They are actively working in vulnerable communities across Karakalpakstan, helping ensure health and well-being. In the face of COVID-19 pandemic, 400 medical workers, teachers, specialists in community mobilization, youth and retired people, all health volunteers immediately came together to establish a new approach of help. They organize consultations for their fellow villagers using materials from the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization.
In Turkey, youth centers are established to be the #1 destination for young people to live an active and healthy life. Providing wide range of opportunities in social, cultural, artistic, scientific, and sports activities, youth centers allow young people to make best use of their time and energy. Empowered by voluntary youth members, these places execute vast set of volunteerism works that are beneficial for both volunteers and the society. Currently, there are 404 youth centers in Turkey, with more than 1,000 youth leaders and 2.7 million members. They have a youth anthem composed and written by voluntary young members. Youth camps are meeting organizations for youth to gain confidence, develop useful habits, internalize ethical values, and have a friendly network under the guidance of the voluntary leaders. Lasting a week, each youth camp has a theme such as nature, aqua, science, and cybersecurity, and have specific activities. So far, 80,000 activities have been carried out under the supervision of voluntary camp leaders and with participation of almost 2 million young people.
In Thailand, community volunteers have been a key part of primary health care during the past 4 decades. They undertake health surveys, collect data, maintain family health records, and do disease prevention campaigns to support the public health authorities. By 2020, Thailand was counting more than 1 million village health volunteers. Following the outbreak of the COVID-19, volunteers like Toingabi Jaimon helped the government to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic that piled pressure on hospitals and clinics. These unsung heroes helped their fellow citizens to keep safe from COVID-19 by going door to door to give advice on the pandemic prevention measures, handing out face masks, alcohol-based gel and health flyers, ensuring contact tracing and isolating people who required home quarantine.
In China, volunteers played an indispensable role in responding to COVID-19 by distributing medical supplies to hospitals and ensuring that communities abide by the government measures to contain the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Among these volunteers included people with disabilities. They also joined the service co-production to empower vulnerable groups by providing vocational training and learning opportunities to people with disabilities who were encouraged to engage as volunteers in various fields, such as serving in the 2022 Winter Games and supporting the product selling in underprivileged rural areas through digital live streaming. The Chinese government also deployed volunteers to underdeveloped areas to promote education equality, especially for children in ethnic minorities.
Across Nepal, women, people with disabilities, rural and urban poor, are devoting their time, expertise and knowledge and collaborating with state authorities to tackle a variety of issues from climate change to heritage conservation. Recognizing that volunteer-state partnerships are characterized by unequal power relations, the volunteers in Nepal, by serving their communities, play a greater role in decision-making alongside the state. They illustrate through example that volunteering can make spaces for inclusive and contribute to outcomes that better respond to the needs of marginalized communities. Moreover, volunteerism in Nepal bridges the gap between community and the state authorities. In Bangladesh, over the years, volunteers have played an important role in the socio-economic and political context of the country. Volunteerism is increasingly seen as an essential ingredient in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Fostering volunteerism is very important in Bangladesh for increasing civic engagement and civic participation and for ensuring the attainment of SDGs and government long-term development goals including Vision 2041 and the Delta Plan 2100. Recognizing the importance of partnerships between volunteer involving organization and the government, Bangladesh is co-creating a national volunteer policy with various stakeholders that aims to embed volunteerism within the national development policies and significantly strengthen local government institutions. In Indonesia, volunteers help people affected by flooding, such as taking care of temporary evacuation and food assistance. This is the case of Magda Hasmutri, who is 53 years old and has been volunteering since 2016. She was first motivated to volunteer because she used to live on the edge of the Ciliwung River, which is often affected by flooding. She is currently included in the COVID-19 task force in her area. She believes that volunteers need to be involved more in government policy advocacy.